humans give way too much power to the words and actions of other humans. This can be positive.
You're a good boy, too. Oh.
And other times,
excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
So-called woke people take this to the extreme. They seem to confuse the right to physical security with an imaginary right not to be insulted. This is a central issue to their struggle. This is why they feel entitled to demand that people address them with certain pronouns and/or nouns of their choosing.
These are my pronouns. You will use them, but you will not refer to me at all. If you mischief.
Imposed speech, basically. You're telling people what they can say and what they cannot. However, they're not imposing it. They're just asking you to use their preferred language because it makes them feel better. Whether you go through with it or not is your choice. Isn't it? Not exactly. In places like Canada, for example, where you can get in legal problems for not going along with these people's demands.
To prohibit within 100 meters of the property any homophobic, transphobic act of intimidation, offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of hate propaganda within the meaning of the criminal code.
So-called base people, on the other hand, are the exact opposite. They tend to disregard the effect words can have on them.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
That's why we see comments like this, implying that, if anything, words meant to be hurtful are necessary for one's growth as a person. By pointing out what's wrong with a person, you give them the motivation to fix that problem. Those who can are mentally strong and therefore desirable, whereas those who do not respond well to criticism are mentally weak and not desirable. But desirable for what, exactly? For society. Resilient people who can work and solve problems under pressure are the ones who keep civilization running, and also the ones that improve it. So as you can see, this perspective is heavily oriented towards reality. You could say it's based on reality, hence the origin of the term. So when you have someone like this and you present them with a concept that falls out of reality,
Daddy, chill.
not only do they get weirded out,
What the hell is even that?
but they immediately try to get you away from it.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
In their minds, they're doing you a favor, for they see you're trying to bring about an idea that's incompatible with truth, and that is a dangerous way to be.
In truth, okay?
Whose truth are we talking about?
Not being in contact with reality can turn you into a victim of the elements, instead of using them in your favor. I think that what base people misunderstand is that woke people strive to grasp concepts so far out there that they fall outside our comprehension. That's why it sounds outrageous.
Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas.
And don't get me wrong, the based are concerned with woke laws for a good reason. For example, compelling people to say certain things by law is a violation of free speech, which is a human right.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth, and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me, and that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
But nobody has a right not to be offended. Only tyrants get to have such privileges. I think woke people's fixation with everybody else's opinion is an undesirable trait. You're putting the responsibility for your well-being in the hands of someone else. You have to understand that that is the reason why you feel so depressed, frustrated, in pain. Because other people have power over you, your emotions, your mood. Think about it. If you go by different pronouns than the ones you are, and you'd like people to do the same, but you break down in tears whenever someone misgenders you, that is a sign that other people's words/ideas mean a lot to you. Why should they? He is just a stranger. You don't know him. If he calls you a dude, but you think you're a girl, does that mean you now stop thinking you're a girl? If the answer is yes, then your belief system is very fragile. So much so that the mere words of a total stranger can shatter your entire reality. If I were like you, if I was certain that I was born in the wrong body, I wouldn't need anyone else to agree with me on that matter, since it's something only I can really attest to, and everyone else's opinion on the matter would just be an outside perspective.
It's as if there was some other person hidden deep inside me. I know you saw it too. You were right, Taro.
So I would ask my friends and family to treat me as what I think I am, but if they refuse, I'm not going to force them, and I'm not going to hate them for it. It's not their fault that we have different worldviews and perceptions. If what you're looking for is someone that goes along with your self-identification, you'll find them. This world is vast, my friend, but even if you went your whole life without finding one, tell me, would that change the way you feel about yourself? Would you start thinking, man, maybe they were right, maybe I'm not a woman, and I'm just a man? If you need outside approval for your state of mind, then said state of mind was never actually real. It never sprouted from your being. It was put there by an outside force. Regardless of what force it might have been, it is not yours. This is my advice for you. Be honest with yourself. Truth will set you free, and in truth, it should be said that woke philosophy could be very beautiful if it weren't championed by individuals so susceptible to judgment and so full of hate. I'm talking about being open and accepting towards differences, not just race, religion, or sexual orientation, but of thought and worldviews, exploring new ways of expressing love, being fair and offering equality, for even though we are diverse, we are all equal in dignity. So next time someone utters words that defy your identity, instead of snapping at them and calling them a bigot, seal your mouth, take a deep breath through your nose, and ask yourself, does what he said really matter? Does my identity depend on his opinion? And after that, act according to the answers you gave to those questions.
If you want for people to be happy and joyful, the revolution that you are doing must be joyful and happy. Otherwise, you're not attracting that. You're attracting the opposite. You don't make others loving beings by hating them. That's not how it works.
So we've established that woke people need to change their conduct. But what about base people? Well, they're not exempt from reasoning mistakes either. The example of men going their own way comes to mind. From the first time I heard it, I knew it was a major red flag, completely disregarding the position and role of women compared to that of men, using statements like, "We don't need women, we're better off without them." For a community so based on reality, this logic seems wildly out of touch with it, and what I see is but a misunderstanding by the MGTOW. Men are superior physically when compared to women. That's why we divide sports by gender, and why we have to teach boys not to hate girls. Men have traditionally run most societies. That's why the economy didn't stop when 100,000 women, roughly 33% of the working population, went on strike in Iceland. So you can say that men have a more active role in society. But discarding women as useless and therefore inferior is not at all a sound decision. Before we even get into why, think about what women close to you would say of this view you have. How could you even look your wife in the eyes after telling her she's inferior in every way? What about your cousin, your sister, your daughter, your own mother? Do you view her as inferior? I think the reason why men go to the extreme view of MGTOW is because they haven't pushed their views this far. They haven't challenged them enough.
A good life as a man involves women. You're gonna need a woman. You can't just be alone and be completely satisfied. You're gonna need some compassion, some care. You need a Hall E in your supercar. You're gonna need a woman. So, no MGTOWs. You sound like weirdos.
And also, because this type of men, of people in general, act out of hatred. This is where wokes and based come full circle. The negative expressions of both meet where hatred thrives. Their actions become undesirable when their life revolves around hatred, around getting back at those who wronged them in the past, instead of getting over them and leaving them in the past. Once again, do not get me wrong. Hatred itself is not the problem. For example, I would hate to become someone with a physique that I wasn't comfortable with. I'd hate to look in the mirror and dislike what I see. Unattractive, unhealthy, uninspiring. The problem is what we make of emotions, hatred or even love. The problem is what we make of the words that are directed at us, insults or even compliments. We care so much about what other people say because we rely on them to give us happiness through their approval. We have given them the power to do it, so that if we experience negative emotions, we can blame it on them and get rid of any kind of responsibility on us. We don't want it to be our fault that we're unhappy. But what we're forgetting is that if I make myself unhappy, that means that I can also make myself happy. If the power to decide is in my control and not in others, then I can be anything I want. Whatever happens from now on, it will be my responsibility. I am now the master of my emotions.